Good morning, children. Welcome to your next bio lesson. Here you are going to learn about, before knowing your lesson name, few questions for you. You can answer your questions in a notebook and give me the answers in our online class. So this is about, imagine when you travel in a bus or train, you could have find n number of plants in barren lands. When you see from the window, you can see n number of plants in barren lands, right? So have you wondered, or any time did you think that who has planted those, all the trees and shrubs or different kinds of plants which we see in barren lands? Did anyone plant it there? No. Then how these n number of plants are growing on leftover lands? Nobody has taken care of them, but they are still growing. How is it possible then? The only way is the reproduction. So plants are reproducing. Reproduction is an important process, goes on in all the living organisms, which is very helpful for all the living organisms. So your next bio chapter is about reproduction in plants. So your lesson number 12 about reproduction in plants. So how this reproduction is helping in plants and what's the meaning of reproduction, we'll see. Every organism on this planet Earth tries to improve their species. They want to keep on going their species on planet Earth. They'll reserve a space for their own species, their own kinds. So to preserve their species, they are undergoing for the reproduction process. So that means they increase their species in number and they'll try to see their number to be sustained for longer time. So that's the meaning of reproduction. Then how reproduction takes place in plants? There are two ways how the reproduction is taking place in plants. Means it is taking place in two ways. One is sexual reproduction and the other one is asec reproduction. Sac reproduction and asec reproduction. Sac reproduction means it takes place with the help of flowers, buds, fruits and seeds. Fruits and seeds. So where these all the parts are participating, that type of reproduction is known as sac reproduction. So the male and female parts of the flower participating in the sac reproduction. Gametes are formed in the sac reproduction. There are n number of varieties can be produced in sac reproduction. When we come to asec reproduction, the new plants or the new species arise from the different parts of the plant like roots, leaves, stem. So apart from the flower, seeds, fruit and buds, the remaining parts of the plants give rise to the new species. So this type of reproduction known as asec reproduction. Here the species which are taking birth will resemble as it is like the parent plant. No variations will be. Whereas in sac reproduction, different variations, possibility is there for production of variations. But here in the asec reproduction, as it is, the exact copy of the parent is produced. The same characters what the plant is showing can be carried to the offspring plants. So generally in plants, asec reproduction is taking place by budding process, by budding by spore formation, by budding, and by fragmentation, budding, spore formation, fragmentation, and vegetative propagation. So these are the different ways, different types of asec reproduction which takes place in plants. So the plants which are produced by asec reproduction are the exact copy of the plant. There is no chance for the production of new plants. Little variation also will not occur. So what's the meaning of budding and what are the different types of asec reproductions taking place in plants? We'll understand now. I'll explain you the different types of asec reproduction which is taking place in plants. To understand the budding, you can do one activity here. So to understand the budding process, you can do the activity. For this, you need to take a beaker and fill the beaker, half the beaker fill with sugar solution. How to make the sugar solution, you know? Take water and add 2 spoons of sugar in that and mix it well. That becomes the sugar solution, very simple. And take the sugar solution in the beaker and add some yeast cells. In bakeries, you will get the yeast cells. So bring the yeast cells and add to this sugar solution. And keep a lid to the whole apparatus, whole beaker, keep a lid. And arrange this beaker at a corner of your house and don't disturb it for one day. And then next day morning, you take 1 or 2 drops with ink pillar. You take 1 or 2 drops of this solution and arrange on a glass slide and observe this under magnifying glass, hand lens, if possible under the microscope. So what you can see, before when you start in this experiment, you can see only the mother yeast cell. But after the complete experiment is completed, then when you observe, you can see some protrudings on the mother yeast cell. Some buds appear. A chain of buds can be seen on mother yeast cell. So in this way, the yeast is reproducing, giving birth to the daughter yeast cells. So the process known as budding. So through budding process, yeast cells are reproduced. And I'll give you more idea about spore formation, fragmentation and vegetative propagation by PPT. I'll show you the pictures and explain you clearly what's the meaning of spore formation, in which type of plants spore formation is taking place, and even I'll show you the budding process, how the chains of buds appear on mother yeast cell. I'll show you in PPT, children. See, this is the mother yeast cell. When we give the sugar solution for this, organic matter it uses and it undergoes for a fermentation process. Fermentation is nothing but yeast cells will break down the organic matter and release carbon dioxide plus ethanol. So that's why it gives a alcoholic smell actually. It gives some alcoholic smell. So after doing that experiment setup, take a drop of sugar solution. After adding the yeast cells, when fermentation process takes place, you take 1 or 2 drops of those sugar solution and keep it on a glass slide and observe under the hand lens or microscope or magnifying glass. So you can observe a bud-shaped structure develops from the mother yeast cell. So this is a bud-shaped structure which is developing from the mother yeast cell. And in the third step you can see the development of other buds are taking place. A chain of buds appear from a single mother yeast cell. So this process from the yeast cell, mother yeast cell, formation of chain of buds known as daughter yeast cells. So this process of giving rise to the new species known as budding. So budding, by the budding process, reproduction is taking place in yeast cells. So this is one of the example for Sac reproduction. The same budding you will also see in Hydra, that we'll read in class 8, reproduction in animals. And another process called as fragmentation. So this is an example of algae. This species name is Spirogyra. Algae is nothing but a green color patch where it grows, where the water gets stagnated and where the moisture areas are there the algae can grow. Algae means, for example, in your home, water tanks and the buckets, plastic drums where you are storing water for long time. In those things, when you observe, a green color patch can be seen. That is the algae. So the speciality of algae is they have only the chlorophyll. Other plant parts like roots, stem and the leaves, roots, stem and flowers, these all the parts are absent in algae. Only the green color leafy part is present in algae. So because of this green color leaf, you know that when the leaf is there, definitely the leaf bears a pigment called as chlorophyll. Due to that chlorophyll pigment, it's getting green color. Because of the chlorophyll pigment, the algae can able to make its own food. So algae speciality is it can make its own food like other plants. And this is algae. There are different types of algae are there. This is one of the algae species called as Spirogyra. So in its structure, nucleus is present and the gap between these two parts called as the gap where I am showing with cursor, this gap is known as fragment. So Spirogyra body is made up of by fragments and it consists of chloroplast. I told you this green color part is chloroplast. So Spirogyra have fragments in its body and chloroplast in its structure. And at the time of reproduction, when Spirogyra breaks near the fragments, then the broken part can lead into an independent life. So that means from a single Spirogyra, the two daughter Spirogyras can form when it break down near the fragments. So this process is called fragmentation, which takes place in Spirogyra. So how Spirogyra is reproducing and giving rise to the new species, you understood, right? And now we will move on to the bread mold. Generally, if you keep bread in moisture places you just sprinkle some water on bread and keep it in a closed box for 1 or 2 days. And then you will observe some fungus growing on that. Fungus is a type of organism which can grow on organic matter. Organic matter is nothing but which is made up with all the nutrients like carbohydrates, vitamins, fats and proteins. When it is made up with that matter is known as organic matter. So wherever the organic matter is there and little moisture is available, then the fungus can grow there. So fungus cannot make its own food. No chlorophyll is present in fungus. So bread mold is one of the example for fungus. So in fungi, if you want to observe the fungi, you just sprinkle the water and keep it as I said. And then when you observe this, you can see like black color spots on bread. These spots are known as spores. So these spores only appears like black color patches on bread. It's nothing but fungi which is growing on organic matter, a type of organism. So how this actually reproducing the new species, that we'll see now. The structure of this bread mold or the structure of fungi, how it can give rise to the new species. I am explaining you children. Once see this diagram. See this diagram once. On bread mold, when you sprinkle the water, first you can see cotton thread-like structures appear. And in the beginning of experiment, you couldn't find out these black color dots immediately. Do this experiment in your home and find out. So as soon as you sprinkle water and keep in a darker place, you could not find the spores immediately. First you can see a white color thread-like structures appear on bread, which is called as hyphae. We can call it as hyphae. So from this hyphae, this is known as hyphae or rhizoid hyphae. From the hyphae, a long tube-like structure which is arising, this is known as sporangiophore. Sporangiophore. Every sporangiophore, end of the sporangiophore, a head-like structure. Are you able to see the head-like structure at end of the sporangiophore? This head-like structure is called as sporangium. Once again, I'll repeat the parts present in bread mold are the fungi. Every fungi group will have the same type of parts. So the base part and thread-like parts are hyphae. From the hyphae, sporangiophore. End of the sporangiophore, sporangium. So inside this sporangium, black colored dot-like structures which appears on bread after 1 or 2 days when you keep in darker place. These black colored spots are called as spores. So when the sporangium gets matured, it gets break down. The head shaped part called as sporangium. So sporangium gets break and these black color spores liberate outside and fall on the bread again, and they can give rise to the new species. Again a new hyphae starts, new sporangiophore, new sporangium is developed. In this way, it's giving rise to the new species. So this type of reproduction in plants called as spore formation. spore formation. So spore formation is taking place in fungi group. Example is bread mold. Fragmentation can be seen in algae. Example is Spirogyra. And budding is a process of asexual reproduction, can be seen in yeast cells. And one more example for spore formation is fern plant. F-E-R-N, fern plant. When you see the fern plant, underside of the leaf, you can see black color head-like structures called as spores. So the same process how bread mold is giving rise to the new species, same way in fern plant, when one spore break down, it fall on the soil again back and give rise to the new fern plants. This way they are giving rise to the new species. So there are no seeds, no flowers or any gametes, male and female gametes are not there. So fusion is not taking place, fertilization is not taking place. So this type of reproduction is known as asexual reproduction in plants. So examples of asexual reproduction in plants are budding, fragmentation, spore formation. These all the ways, different ways. And the species which are giving rise, the mother plant which is giving rise to the new species are exact copies of the mother plant. Their variations will be very less. And the next one is vegetative propagation. That we'll discuss in coming class. What's the meaning of vegetative propagation and how it takes place. So up to here, you all understood the different types of asexual reproduction which takes place in plants. And your today's homework is draw the diagram of budding process in yeast cells. So draw like this with different stages and label this diagram. And draw the diagram of fragmentation in Spirogyra. Draw the diagram of fragmentation in Spirogyra. These all are given in your textbook, children. So see the textbook and draw, children. So fragmentation diagram is already given in your book. So draw the diagram of fragmentation in Spirogyra and label the diagram. And draw the diagram of spore formation in bread mold. Draw the diagram and label the parts. Draw the diagram of fern plant and show the spores present in fern plant. So this is your today's homework, children. In coming class, we are going to discuss about vegetative propagation. Thank you.